You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show. I am your host and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and with me as always is my partner and co-host, Mr. Cini.
Dr. Jacalyn, day by day, in every way, we're getting better and better. And I can't believe how creative you've been lately in putting some of the content together for the program. It's been great.
Well, thank you. I've been trying to follow your lead, and I have to say it's not as easy as it looks, and it takes a lot of time, but it is fun.
It is. Video editing can be a real pain, but you're using iMovie, I think you mentioned. That helps a lot. I mean, it simplifies a lot of things. Editing can be more challenging. The more you ask of it, the more work there is that you have to put into it, and you've got to be patient. And but it's definitely worthwhile. And you've done some good stuff, including a trailer, which I guess you've got teed up and ready to roll.
I do. Should I play it now?
Yeah, sure. Let's watch.
Drum roll. Bring.
Go. That was the most exciting 44 seconds of my adult life.
I had so much fun making that, but as I mentioned,
wait a minute, you got bears, you got fish. I mean, you this thing has it all. It's an extravaganza. Where did you get all the ideas?
So the movie trailer, you have to replace certain things that are already there. Yeah. And I decided to go with a winter theme because I liked the mountain in the beginning when it shows the name of the production company. And so I went with the winter scenario. And I actually had 3 videos that somebody took when they were out in Alaska. So I just used them.
Not bad.
Yes, so they're actually real videos of what this person saw in Alaska.
Well, aside from working with you and me, what's been your most favorite moment? And we've been doing this now for about 8 weeks, I think.
I think so. Yes.
What do you like best? You like you like talking with authors? I know that some of those raps have been terrific. And today we've got a guest on meditation, Dina Kaplan. We're waiting for to come into
when you ask me what I like the best, what I think is so interesting is that many of the guests that we've had on and whom we will have on have all changed their lives in one way or another in a pretty significant way. And maybe it was years ago, maybe they just did something recently or they're in the process. And I'd like to hear about that because I really am all about hope, inspiration, and stories of overcoming adversity. So I like to show people that you can have one chapter in your life and then change and have another one and then another and another.
How many chapters in the book of Dr. Jacalyn so far?
You mean the one I'm writing?
Yeah.
I've got 2.5 chapters that I wrote so far for my book. So.
Oh, good.
But I want to know what part of this work together have you enjoyed the most in terms of our guests or the program?
I think I'd zero in on the same thing. I mean, it's always great when people come on and talk about the things they've done, like the books they've written. But when you connect with a guest in a deep way, where they actually resonate with the question you ask and they open up and talk about a personal transformation that they've been through, I think those are the most powerful moments. And we've had a few of those. It's that for me is very rewarding because I think connecting with people is what it appeals to me, and I know it appeals to you, but I think it works for our audience too.
I would agree with you. And as you and I both know, we also do work for RVN TV, where we get to interview people in person many times, at least before the pandemic. And it's just such a rewarding opportunity to hear someone's story. And I think it's really a great opportunity for them as well. And that's a big part of the reason why I like to do it, because you give someone a platform to share their story that then may in turn help inspire someone else to share their story.
It is a much better way to meet people than the bar at Prospectors in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Definitely.
So I've never been there. Is it open?
I have no idea. Most bars, I think, are kind of challenged these days. I was at one recently with a couple of friends over dinner, and the bar was open to maybe 2 guests. I mean, they really have to keep people separate, and so they're very careful, especially in New Jersey, about how open they are. But yeah, I have fond memories of bars, I must say.
Me too. I miss going to a bar and just walking around talking to people and finding out their story. And I don't know that I'll be returning to that anytime soon, because there's literally nothing open at the shore. Well, there's 1 or 2 places, I shouldn't say that, but I don't really have a desire to go down here.
That begs a question, because I think everybody kind of imagined when this first happened in March that by April or May it would all be over. You kind of think that way. Well, I'm now getting word that Broadway doesn't plan to reopen again until next July.
Yes, I heard that also.
This is beginning to look like an experience that's going to stretch over more than a year for a lot of people. And and when it does open, I don't think it's going to open like a light switch works. It's going to take a while for people to get comfortable to go back to the way things used to be. And they'll never go back to the way things used to be. It will be a new normal. We just don't know what that is yet.
What would you say is your favorite part, if we have to look at things from a positive perspective, your favorite part of having been quarantined and having had your life changed?
I'm so glad you asked that. It is exactly this. I have learned that if I start today to watch Netflix and I don't stop and I drink gallons of Mountain Dew and take caffeine pills and just watch 24 hours a day, it'll take me 7.5 years to watch everything.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I can't believe it would take 7.5 years. I feel like I'm just going through Netflix and there's not a lot to watch. What have you been watching?
It's really terrible stuff. Lately I've been watching revenge movies where the hero is a former Navy SEAL who's working at a fast food restaurant now, but it knows how to kill people, and something happens to his family, and so he has to go off and destroy, usually they're Russian mobsters. He has to go and kill them all to get revenge for his family. There are about 1,000 of those on Netflix.
So a unique storyline then.
Oh, it's so predictable. It's 100% predictable. You just slip right into a groove, and the next thing you know, all the Russians are dead and revenge has been exacted. Very satisfying result.
Sounds very interesting. I started watching something called Rebecca. I was riding my bike and I like to watch something on Netflix. So I got up. Well, I don't want to ruin for anyone, but it seems to me where it's the story of a man loves his wife is tragically killed. He meets a young, attractive woman, and then she finds out that he doesn't really love her, so she tries to be more like the dead wife.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Is that a chick flick? That sounds like a chick flick.
I think probably.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. I don't know that you've ever had this happen, but in the dating world, I've actually dated people whom they lost their spouse, and it turns out that I looked somewhat like the spouse that had passed away. So
seriously?
Yeah, so that didn't work for me too well.
No, I mean, that is like, there ought to be a class for people. If you're going to go on a date, start now and move forward. Don't start now and work backward. Working backward will not get you anywhere. Just a bad idea. Actually, that's a good life lesson.
That is for sure. We can't dwell in the past, and we can't futurescape about what's going to happen. We can only talk about what's going to happen now. So what's going to happen now is that we're actually going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, hopefully our guest will be backstage by then, and we can look forward to welcoming her. So we actually have a Facebook user comment. Thank you so much. We don't know who this is from, but thank you for being part of our show.
That's nice.
Yeah, that is really nice.
Cool.
So as I mentioned, we're going to go to a commercial break and we will be right back. Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Have you just lost your job or have been laid off and you are looking to transition to a new job or career? Maybe you have even tried submitting tons of applications and yet you keep getting turned down for jobs you qualify for. Don't wait until you become overwhelmed with rejections when you can easily transition or get your dream job. Let MJW Careers guide you to the right career path and a better, brighter future. At MJW Careers, we know what hiring managers are looking for, and our goal is to land you the job you deserve. What makes MJW Careers a wonderful provider over other services is our pragmatic and scientific approach to resume writing. There are rules, there are visual cues, there are content best practices. We understand those and work within the boundaries to ensure our clients' messaging appeals to the decision makers. Our career consultants will help you transition into new roles quickly and effectively. With our experience in virtually every industry, we will provide direction in the frustrating job market by helping you write a customized, professional resume and prepare you for your interview as well. Join the great number of people we have helped scale up to greater things in their careers. Let us help you on your career journey. Come visit us, www.jobstickers.com, to learn more and grab a free resume review or ebook.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show, live on Business Talk Radio, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. Mr. Cini, how are you?
Well, I'm just fine, and I know we're waiting on our guest, Dina Kaplan, and she's welcomed whenever she shows up. But I do want to talk about meditation because I think it's a very important subject, and it's not at all the kind of subject that your typical executive leadership type indulges in.
Absolutely.
So, taking advantage of your expertise, Dr. Jacalyn, I know you're becoming certified now in teaching meditation. Maybe you can explain the experience.
Sure. So a couple of things. I did hear from our guest, Dina Kaplan, and she is on her way to the studio. So we will welcome her shortly. And I also heard from our Facebook user, who is Sue Golden. So I just wanted to give a shout out. I don't know why it doesn't say her name here, but hello, Sue Golden. Thank you for being part of the program.
Hi, Sue.
So to answer your question, I am getting certified in meditation, and I really hadn't done anything formalized with meditation. I would just meditate what I thought was meditation in yoga or before I went to sleep at night. And I actually did a lot of research and thought I really need to learn how to meditate because I think it would be helpful in a lot of ways. And so when I did my research, I found that the path, which is what Dina founded, is the top school. So I enrolled in the program, and I think we've had 5 weeks of classes so far. We meet once a week, and then we have a separate meeting later in the week with our pod members, the people in our smaller groups, so that we can actually practice doing meditation and leading groups. So it's interesting, and Dina will give us an overview because she's really the expert when it comes to meditation. But what I found is in learning about the Buddhist philosophy that there's a lot of things in life that distract us from being able to meditate, and they're the same things that distract or hinder us from being as happy as we can be. And so some of these, for example, are always wanting something else. If only I had this, if only I had one more of that. The others are doubt, always doubting yourself that I'm not good enough, or I didn't go to the right school, whatever it might be. And then a big one is anger. You know, we're so angry at so many things that we lose perspective on the things that really matter. And we can go down this rabbit hole trying to make something that we feel is not right, make it right. In the meantime, we put so much energy into it that it defeats our ability to be at peace with ourselves and be kind and be generous and be grateful. So that's my take so far.
Well, it's a good one. I can tell you why I think that could be so valuable to a business leader, because a business leader's perspective on all this is that meditation would actually be a distraction. They would believe that what they need to focus on really is, instead of being in the moment, managing the next moment. So business leaders are all very much in the future, either worried about things or preoccupied with things or focused on things that are in the future rather than in the here and now. And for a lot of people who run businesses, I think they see time as their enemy, and beating the clock is what they're about. Meditation takes time, but if you see time as your friend rather than your enemy, then it becomes a worthwhile investment.
Very well put. And if you see time as an asset, right, all we really have is time. We have this moment right now. We're not guaranteed anything else. So if you're respectful of your own time and how you spend it, and you use it to clear the clutter and help you focus and be mindful, my understanding, and I really believe this since I started this 5 weeks ago, you really can change your life. And if you can change your life in a positive way, you may be able to influence someone else who is also struggling with hindrances or doubt or anger, and help them focus and concentrate on what's really important.
That's, if there's nothing else we learned from 2020, it's that we can't really manage anything ultimately. And eventually everything is going to change, often in ways we can't expect. And coping with those changes and putting yourself in the right frame of mind to be able to accept time when it does these things, because time will do them.
Yes.
I think that makes for a much happier life, and actually a more successful and more prosperous business too. I
would agree with you. And I just want to bring this up. We have another Facebook user saying hello with a heart. That's beautiful. So
that's for you, Dr. Jacalyn.
Thank you for sharing your heart and your love with us. That's beautiful.
That's nice. That's a nice thing.
It really is. So as you know, we started off on Business Talk Radio, which we love Business Talk Radio. And thank you to everybody out there who's listening. And we expanded our audience through Facebook and also through YouTube, which has been really an interesting experience, one that I really appreciate. And anybody out there who's watching us, we just want to say thank you, because we really do appreciate your support.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And every contribution that everybody out there makes, whether they're just calling in or putting a comment in on Facebook or watching a YouTube video, those contributions are all very, very, very appreciated.
Absolutely. And you know what? You just made me realize that we should put in the call-in number. So Dina will be with us. We're going to take a short break in a minute or so. But if you want to call in and ask Dina Kaplan any questions, she is the founder of The Path, and it is an organization that provides meditation for the modern world. And again, we'll hear more from her. She has a very interesting business background that I think she's learned quite a bit from, and she's evolved to finding the path and helping spread the word of meditation, which I personally really appreciate. So there's a number for you. It's 631-730-5468. And Al, why don't you take us into the break?
Well, we'll be right back with more of Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn after these messages.
Stay with us.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Hey everybody, my name is Ashley Owens. I am your personal networking concierge, and I host a show on RVN TV called Connect to Success, where I interview power networkers in the greater Philadelphia and South Jersey area. So join me every week, 12:30 on Thursdays during your lunch break, and now on Fridays at 9 and 9:30 p.m. We'll see you next week.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show, live on Business Talk Radio out of Long Island, New York, Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Hello, Mr. Cini.
Hello, Dr. Jacalyn, and I have a question for you.
Let me hear it.
During the break, you brought up Dina Kaplan as our guest. We're still waiting for her to join us. But you brought up a slide about the vow she took a couple of years ago to never tell a lie.
Yes.
I kind of remember you saying that you took a similar vow. Is that true?
Yes, it is true.
How's it? I have to tell you, it scares me a little because when I ask you how am I doing, I'm terrified of the answer now. How's it working for you?
So it's the 5 precepts, and I hope I'm recounting this right, but the first 3 are the big ones, I think. So no killing, no stealing, and no lying. And so no killing, you might say to yourself, well, that's a no-brainer, but no killing of anything, meaning insects. And that's a tough one for me because I don't like bugs, but now I'm just letting them, fly around me, crawl across my desk. I had a spider the other day. No stealing, meaning that if you get something for free and you didn't pay for it, you have to make the person aware of the fact that you got something for free and that you have to pay for it. And that actually just happened to me at the car dealership. And then the last one is no lying. So no little white lies, no backstabbing, no talking about someone behind their back, and also no making fun of someone. So I actually had to apologize to Joe at RVN TV for being involved in a lot of the jokes that were at his expense. And I told him that I was really sorry about that. It's not something that's really nice to do to anyone. So.
Well, you can do it for a laugh. It's a funny thing. First of all, I think that's extremely respectable and a pretty high bar, and I have to give you credit for that. So, and that whole idea of not talking behind people's backs and not saying, that what we heard as children, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all, is really a great life lesson. It's a great law to live by. What is the point of trashing somebody else? What do you gain from that? And a lot of people, I think, make conversation that's hurtful and don't realize it. And if they were just a little bit more mindful of it, they change the subject. Now, in Joe's case, I co-host a morning coffee on RVN TV with Joe on Friday mornings. I have a lot of fun with Joe, but it is fun, and he knows it is. And that's the difference. When you're poking at somebody because you're trying to hurt them, they know that. When you're poking at somebody to try to make conversation and just get a laugh, they also know that. So it really is just a matter of respecting other people's feelings and, doing your best at that. I've got to give you a lot of credit. How is that improving your life?
Well, I would say that I don't have to think about things as much as I used to before and I think it has an alignment with the Bible, with the 10 Commandments, right? It's just some things that are basic, but we don't think about them. And when you think about these precepts and doing the right thing and trying to live a clean life, an authentic life, it actually feels really good. It's not easy. And I think you brought up a good point. Like, what if you have to tell someone something and it may end up hurting their feelings? Do you still tell them, or do you find a nice way to present it? And I think we had talked about this, but what if someone asks you how they look in a certain outfit and you don't think they look that great? Instead of saying that really looks terrible on you, you could say, well, what do you think? And then listen to what they say. And usually when someone's asking for reassurance is because they really don't feel good about it themselves. And so it's kind of that intuition. So I think that I'm hearing my intuition a lot more than I did before, and I'm listening to my intuition.
Well, yeah, if I can give any advice that I would add to that, is that sometimes when you ask somebody for an opinion, they feel obliged to offer one. So you're really putting people in a difficult position when you say, I really want to hear what you think, because often they don't really want to offer what they think, and you've now required it of them. And, I mean, it is a tough thing. I mean, a lot of people feel like they need to offer criticism just because they've been asked for it. And not all criticism is worth following. That's another thing. You don't, just because somebody tells you something that hurts you doesn't mean you have to believe them. And I think that's another thing to remember. I mean, everybody's life experience is filled with crappy advice they got from credible people that, fortunately, if they had followed, hopefully they didn't follow what they were told, but when they did something else, it actually worked out better. So just because somebody says something about you that you don't like doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about or that it's true, or
right.
Don't care what other people think. I think that's a tough lesson too.
I agree with everything you're saying. And I think another thing that I've experienced through time is people will say hurtful things because they don't like themselves. So they're projecting the fact that they don't like themselves onto someone else. And if I don't like how I feel about me, why don't I just put you down and make you feel badly? Because now the two of us can commiserate about how badly we don't like ourselves, or how wrong the world is, or all of the negativity, as opposed to picking each other up and focusing on the good that we each have, because everybody has good parts to them for sure.
And everybody's work is respectable work, even if you might quibble with one or another part of it. You've got to respect the work other people do. And one of the things that's always annoyed me, honestly, is when you call tradespeople into your house to work on something. Let's say you've got an electrical problem or a plumbing problem. I can't tell you how often a plumber will come in here and the first thing they'll do is complain about the lousy job the plumber before them did. Like, I can't believe, and I'm not a plumber, so it wasn't me. But often the first thing they'll do is talk about what a lousy job that drywall work is, or that mill work is, or that carpentry is. And then they'll talk about how great they are. And I think that's very disrespectful, for one thing. And also it's a bad tone to start a relationship with a customer on.
Yes, I totally agree with that. So how do you handle it then?
Well, you change the subject, or I tend to make myself scarce when people come in and do work. I mean, if they tell me that the guy I hired before was crummy and that he ripped me off, there's not much I can do about that. So I'd really rather not hear it. And my attitude is, well, do me a favor this time. Make sure you don't have to come back. Make sure I don't have to call somebody next year to come in and tell me what a lousy job you did.
Right.
I would just want to make sure you do such a good job that never happens to me again.
And that's the same thing in any business, right? You don't want to talk badly about your competitors. You don't want to put your competitors down. You want to focus on how you're bringing value to your client, regardless of what type of work it is, not what a bad job somebody else did.
Yeah, you can definitely talk about what you do that's different. You can definitely talk about what you do that might focus on something they don't focus on. But you can't talk about how bad you think they are, because that just makes you look bad. It's just a bad idea. Right. So, I think these are things that people learn as they grow up. But it would sure make your life easier if you learned it at 22 or 23 and didn't have to wait until you were 40 to figure out that you made all those mistakes. It's the kind of thing that you can grow up quickly and learn very quickly. Just be kind. Be a kind person. And it never hurts. Always helps.
But very valid. And I think another point is putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. We don't know what someone else is going through. We don't know why someone's acting the way they're acting. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, my daughter worked years ago as a ride escort at Disney World. And I mean, you meet all kinds at an amusement park, and that's the ultimate amusement park. So it's Disney World. And there was one case where a child, part of a family, was brought to the front of a very popular attraction. And as a result, they ended up getting in line in front of a bunch of people. And turns out they had a yellow tag, which was an indicator that the family had a special condition. And but the child wasn't in a wheelchair, so it wasn't obvious. And there were people in the line that were complaining loudly, "What disease do I have to get so that I can get at the front of this line?" And I heard that story, and I thought to myself, first of all, that child, that young man, he was about 14 years old, and he was a terminal cancer patient. So he was. This was probably the last opportunity he'd ever have to see Disney World.
Oh my God.
But to have somebody, I mean, seriously, this is supposed to be the happy place. You can't. But I don't think if that person had a chance, I would hope that if that person had a chance to hear her the way everybody else in that line heard her, that she would learn from that and never do that again.
We would hope so. But, my hope is that people continue to work on themselves. I know I'm always trying to work on myself to be better human beings and to be more understanding and more tolerant of what other people experience, just like I would hope someone would do the same for me.
I would think that. I mean, I've gotten to know you over the course of the last several months that we've been working together, and I know you mean that when you say it. I mean, half the battle is just admitting to yourself and to be willing to admit to everybody else that you know you have work to do and that you're intending to do it. And if I, lapse every now and then, I apologize. Just let me know and I'll get back on my path and try to become a better person, knowing that there's no end to that road. Right.
It's a continuous journey.
Yeah, it is. And it's the work that you do to become a better person that actually makes you a better person. And if everybody did it, we'd all be living in a much better world.
And I think that we're in such a rush to get to wherever it is we think we need to go that we don't enjoy all of the things that take place during that journey. And that's really where the fun and the happiness comes in.
We don't. Now, I know that based on the subjects that we've been discussing that I probably shouldn't bring this up, but I have to say this. I want a 2022 GM Hummer. It's an electric truck. And I just saw a video of it today. And it gets 300 miles on a charge, and it drives sideways. I know you'll find this incredible, but this is for off the planet driving. I mean, you could drive this thing on the moon. It's like you could drive around craters, you could drive up mountains, and it's all electric. It's totally electric, and it's only $110,000, Dr. Jacalyn. So what do we have to do to get that?
Wow. Well, maybe we can contact someone at the car manufacturer and see if there's any type of...
That's promotional consideration.
Yes.
We'll talk about for in exchange for showing the car, maybe driving it around, we'll just get to keep it. What do you think? Or you'll just forget you loaned it to us.
I think it's great if you drive it, if you don't mind rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the Business Talk Show.
I wouldn't hesitate. And I want the brand purple for that too. That's the color I want. Absolutely.
What was the car, the special Chrysler car that was in purple? Gary Barbera had it. It's always, if anybody knows on Facebook, if you can put it into the comments section, it's a special low car. Gary Barbera had it. And it was purple. This same color purple.
Same color purple as your brand.
Yeah. Is it the Prowler? Is that a car?
I could Google it, but I can't do two things at once anymore. I'm too old.
You're not too old. Come on. No negative thoughts.
Well, that was a joke. I actually feel like I'm 18, except at certain times. I drive a Prius Prime. This is from Chris. He's getting 142 miles to the gallon this week.
Wow, that's incredible, Chris.
Whoa, that is fantastic. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Prius is a great car. I have a Chevy Volt, and when it's not in the shop, I love it.
So it's been you have a lot of problems with it.
Well, it's had a couple of it's been, let's just say it's been challenging. It's my second one. The first one was trouble-free for 3.5 years, and this one had a couple of problems I needed to bring it back in for. But I mean, nothing terrible. But Yeah, but it's a great car. I really do like it. I don't get 142 miles per gallon, but I do get about 102.
That's pretty darn good.
And
Darn good.
Chris, I know you're backstage, but it's kind of like playing a video game. You keep trying to drive in a way that jacks up that number so that you get to 143 miles per gallon or 144, and it's not a bad goal.
And you know what? I just wanted to bring something up in reference to what we had talked about before with the 5 precepts, one of them being no stealing. Yeah. So I want to know what your thoughts are on this, and anybody who wants to send us a comment. I took my car in for a required service, and I called a couple of weeks in advance to find out when they could take me, and they gave me the certain date, which was a couple of weeks later. It was actually last week. And I have a lease, and I had prepaid for the maintenance. So I called and I made the appointment. And then when I got there, the 2 guys checked me in with their iPad. Then I went to the service technician, and he checked me in. And he said it would take about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I said, great, I'll sit here and read, because one of our guests sent me their book. So I thought, let me read the book. So about 2 hours and 15 minutes later, the service technician or service advisor came over, and he said, I just wanted to let you know that we were almost finished your service and realized that your warranty had expired, and you now owe us $750. So
now, this is regular service. This is like oil and filter change.
Yes, it's the B service, whatever the B service is. So I said, I'm not paying $750. So he said, let me go talk to the service manager and have him come out. So he comes out, and he said that they were partly at fault. And I said, well, I'll just give you my perspective. When I called on the phone to make the appointment, somebody has your VIN. They look up the VIN, and someone could have said, by the way, your warranty expires September 29th. We're giving you an appointment for October. I forget if it was the 12th or the 13th. It was a Tuesday. So we need to have you come in right away. So that didn't happen. Then when your 2 guys checked me in, they have the VIN number. They didn't say, by the way, XYZ. And your service advisor also didn't mention anything. So he said, well, we don't know when your warranty expires, and the person at the desk doesn't know, and you don't really need this service, which I thought was a crazy thing to say. So long story short, he said, we have 2 options. Here they are. The first is we'll charge you for the A service, which is $350. And you can go on your way. And I said, well, what about getting the rest of the B service? He said, you're good for another year. You don't need the B service. So I said, so the $750 wasn't really needed anyway. So he didn't answer that. So he said, or the second option is you can leave here and not pay us anything, and we'll note in your file what happened. And I thought, wow, I am definitely being tested. This is like the Buddhist philosophy here. What am I going to do? So I said to the service manager, what would you do? And he said, I would pay the $350. So I thought about it, and I thought, people, 1 person, 2 people, I don't know, worked on this vehicle. Work was actually done. Service was actually provided. So if I were to leave and not pay anything, I would be stealing. So I said, you know what? I'm happy to pay the $350, and I'm not unhappy that I did what I did. I think I did the right thing.
Well, I think you did the right thing too, but stealing works 2 ways, and when let's talk about pricing just for a second, because I know it was a Mercedes dealership that you went to. That's pretty high end. That's a pretty well known car make and pretty high end, and there are 2 ways to price, let's say, service on an automobile. One way is to take the cost of the oil and the cost of the hours the mechanic spends. Multiply the hours times the hourly rate, add up the cans of oil, and come up with a number. Let's say $110, realistically, right?
Right.
The other way is to look at how much it costs to send your kids to college and work backward from that to figure out how much I have to charge you to be able to afford all that.
Yes, okay? That's true.
So that latter approach, I think, this isn't stealing. This is haggling, and I think, listen, I have to give you respect and kudos for approaching it the way you did. But I would have said, you know what? I'll tell you what. Put a nasty note in my file and let me out of here without paying anything. And I'll go to a different Mercedes dealership next time, or I'll just take it to Joe down the corner and ask him to change the oil.
I know, but I don't think that's the Buddhist way. And I wish Dina was here. She actually, I heard from her, she's traveling. She got to her hotel and she's trying to get in. So we may just have to have her on another program. But in the meantime, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, hopefully we'll have Dina with us. But if not, we'll have some more interesting conversation.
Sounds
and I've
great.
got to run that trailer again. I have to. I'm sorry. I'm going to run it before we come back.
I'm hanging on it. I can't wait to see it.
Also, Margie Cedrone, this is her commercial. I made this myself. So I know we had another one, but this is one that I produced myself. So here we go. We'll be back on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show. Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cedrone, artisan jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
Have you ever tried to build people into a team? Maybe you've tried bowling, or ziplining, or paintball, or pizza making. These events can be fun, and they can make everybody happy for a while. But in the long run, do they really turn people into a team? Now, imagine the members of your team scattered all over the world, working from trains and airplanes, from remote offices, client locations, or working from home. How do you build a winning team when your playing field might be the entire world? With BCAT, we've created the answer. Working completely online, no matter where your people are, we turn them into an engaged and motivated team in 3 simple steps. First, we use the BCAT survey, which they can take online, anywhere, anytime, to reveal the North Star that represents their shared pride in the work they do. Next, we work with your team's leaders and stakeholders to convert that North Star into a role target, an ideal virtual person who represents your team's best self, living its best day at work. With our internet tools, we hang your North Star high in the sky, where everyone on your team can see it, no matter where in the world they might be. Then we guide and help everyone on your team in creating personal plans to align themselves with your team's North Star. We help each of them develop the positive habits that, day by day, every day, steer them closer to your North Star, aligning themselves with your team's signature dreams and ideals. And over the long haul, we offer programs and coaching techniques that help them stick to their plans. Remote team building isn't hard. It doesn't take long. And it's just as much fun as pizzas and paintball. You build winning teams around a purpose, not a place. BCAT is the answer.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, live on Business Talk Radio, YouTube Live, and Facebook Live. My co-host and partner, Mr. Al Cini, is in the house. Al, good to see you through the break.
Great to be back. And I'm noticing, too, that our guest, Dina Kaplan, is here.
Yes, she is.
Let's bring her right out.
Dina, welcome to the program.
Hi, great to be with you, Dr. Jacalyn. I'm so thrilled to be here. And hi, nice to meet you as well. Thank you.
Real pleasure, Dina.
We have been singing your praises and showing your articles and talking all about you. And so our audience is thrilled that you've joined us. As I've mentioned, you are the founder of The Path, bringing meditation to the modern world. Before that, you were the chief operating officer and the co-founder of a tech company, which we're going to talk about. And you also are an Emmy award-winning journalist with NBC stations. I mean, we could go on and on and on. But I know you from The Path, and I'm enrolled in your course, which I told our audience. So thank you so much for being with us today, Dina.
Thank you so much. You have done your homework. That is very impressive. Thank you.
So let's get right into it. We are in the middle of this pandemic. There's a lot of negativity in the world. You know, we all know what's going on. Where does meditation have a place, especially in the business world?
Yes. I mean, look, those of us that are in business, and I'll put myself in that category too, because even though I teach meditation, as you know, and run teacher training programs, I'm also running a startup that is in the field of meditation. These are very stressful times. And even if people's actual businesses are doing well, like the people in video conferencing and people that are doing software design for businesses, you know, their businesses are exploding right now. But I think all of us, everyone feels the stress of the people around us that aren't doing well. And there are a whole variety of reasons that you might not be, from health and fear, anxiety, and just the sheer fact that a lot of businesses are struggling right now. So I think meditation is absolutely a game changer right now. I'm so grateful for it. And so I really strongly recommend that if you're charmed by it, and there are a lot of different ways you can do meditation, that you take up a practice and make that as essential to your day as coffee or brushing your teeth or anything else. But I actually also think that there's some positive psychology tools that we can do to keep our brains fine-tuned, just like we all try to keep our bodies in shape. And I think that's really important at this time also.
Great. Dina, I have a question for you. I know I was looking at thepath.com, which is a great website, and I noticed you offer programs for corporations, companies.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. How do you help a company find a center?
Yes, exactly. I mean, look, if you think about it, companies are people, right? And people right now are suffering all around the world. And so we love doing this. We're getting a lot of requests for this, which you're probably not surprised to hear, even from venture capital firms, PR firms, all sorts of different businesses. And so what I'll do for them is I'll guide a meditation, but I'll also and give people the tools to have a daily practice for themselves. Because I think it's so important and wonderful to have a practice that you can do yourself, so you're not relying on your phone or anything electrical or digital related that you'll need in order to meditate, but also some tools to help people relax and just keep your mind positive. You know, as you're learning, Dr. Jacalyn, right now in the course, we have more control over our minds and our thoughts and our emotions than you might think. And there are very specific things that we can do to keep ourselves positive and happy. And I talk about it as freedom. Like, let's have freedom in our brain so that we can choose our thoughts and choose our emotions and choose how we're going to respond to people throughout the day.
That's great.
That's fantastic. And Dina, the Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn programs are all about hope, inspiration, and stories of overcoming adversity. And so you were in a completely different world and you walked away from that. You went to Bali, and then you went around the world learning different meditation techniques. And I'm wondering if you could talk about that, because right now people are at a pivotal point in their life where they may be forced to make a change in their career or personally, and we have all these hindrances or obstacles that we think are keeping us. So you changed everything. What can you share with our viewers and our listeners?
Look, I think a lot of this comes down to really tapping into your intuition. And our bodies, we learn this through studying meditation and going further down the Buddhist path, our bodies have actually more wisdom than our minds. So rather than sitting and doing a pro and con list and those things in the Western world that we're told to do, I would say tap into your intuition and ask yourself, is this job or even is this line of career that I'm in right now, is this serving me? Is this the right place for me? And it might be yes, that you're meant to stay in this profession, but it might also be a no. For me, as you heard in that story that I shared this week on our teacher training, it took me being across the street from my office at Broome and Lafayette in Soho and Lower Manhattan on one day after founding and running a company and raising tens of millions of dollars for it in venture capital money, it took my absolute intuition saying, I've got to get out of here. And it was so not obvious. But as you mentioned, yes, I left. I booked a flight, flew 8 days later. It was terrifying, but it was absolutely what I had to do. So I would say take a moment, and if you're not into meditation, go for a walk. If you're even in New York or another city, go for a walk in a park. That works too. And try to get into your intuition and really tap in and ask yourself, what would serve me right now? And then take that scary leap to follow it.
Wow. There's some people I work with, Dina, and I think you could probably help with this, who have addictions to negative feelings. They're addicted to anger, or they're addicted to fear, or addicted to worry. And in a way, worrying and being afraid and being angry are kind of like self-reinforcing, but very counterproductive. Meditation is a way to break those addictions, isn't it?
Yes, meditation. Thank you. That's a wonderful question. I would say there are 2 steps to it. Meditation helps you put a gap between how someone, whatever you're hit with during the day and how you choose to respond to it. But it also puts a gap between you noticing that thought, oh, I feel really angry at person X or situation Y that happened to me just now. And whether you want to just let that build and develop and fester, or whether you want to say, oh, I feel angry. Do I want to continue to feel angry? Does that serve me? You can tap into your intuition even in that moment. I noticed on my trip, I took this big 2.5-year trip around the world after running a startup for 7 years. And I realized that the anger that I felt towards one of my co-founders and, some of the other situations that were work related, that it didn't serve me. And one day I started writing out letters, just releasing that anger, forgiving every single person, even people that had done terrible things to me. It was my choice and my freedom to choose to forgive them. And once I did, and then finally wrote a letter to myself, forgiving myself for not leaving earlier, I literally felt lighter and I felt free. And when people meet me in person, they'll always say, wow, you have such a light energy. And, a lot of that is because I took that choice to release that anger. And by the way, the anger doesn't serve. It's not hurting the other person. It's only hurting you. So by letting that go, you only let yourself live a happier, lighter life.
That's great. One last thing, and I know we're coming up on the end of the program, but you mentioned you had those thoughts and you wrote them down. And a lot of people have thoughts and they think that's enough. But the act of writing the thought down is what really reinforces it and turns it into action, isn't it?
Well, what I did was I took the anger and I transformed that. I chose to transform that, and I chose to write out forgiveness letters. And yes, that felt really real. I didn't send them, and you don't have to send them, but by writing out, I forgive you for X, Y, Z, all these maybe terrible things that someone has done to you, you release that anger. And why not, especially now, why not let go of anger? Take that choice, take that freedom, and live more lightly. That's our choice. That's in our power.
Great advice.
For sure. So I have a question, Dina. How much more time do you have? Do you have another 10 or 15 minutes?
I'm so sorry. I was logged on to the wrong link, so I apologize.
No, that's fine. Mr. Cini, do you have about 10, 15 minutes?
I can do 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to say goodbye to everyone listening for Business Talk Radio. And thank you to Chris, our producer there in Long Island, New York. We'll take a quick commercial break and we will be right back with our friends on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So stay with us. And again, thank you to everyone at Business Talk Radio. We will be right back.
Great.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business talk show on Facebook Live and YouTube Live right now. And with me is my co-host and partner, Mr. Al Cini, and our special guest, Dina Kaplan, founder of The Path. It's great to see you both. Dina, I know that you're aware of the fact that I'm meditating because I'm a student in your course. And Mr. Cini and I were talking about the fact that he doesn't meditate. So I was wondering if you could just share for people watching and Mr. Cini, what exactly is meditation?
That's a great question. And I'd be curious to ask Mr. Cini too why he chooses not to. But before I do that, I would say that meditation is about training the mind. And, you know, we all know that there's a lot of benefit from training the body. And a lot of people take time to go to the gym, or you go maybe running or lifting weights or whatever it is that you enjoy doing to keep your body in good shape. So I think of meditation as something that we can do that's very focused on strengthening our mind and helping our mind to be more of whatever it is that we're looking for. It could be more focused, more calm, more compassionate, more powerful. So there are different meditation techniques to hone the mind for whatever it is that you want to optimize for. But at this day, in this day and age, this is not something that you haven't run across. So I'd be curious to ask you, Mr. Cini, why you're not meditating.
First of all, Dina, my friends call me Al. And second of all, I think it's I've started to, or I've tried to. I should mention I also live part-time in New York. We have Transcendental Meditation, the TM Center, was our retail tenant for 10 years. And I did go down there, and I did go down there and take about, I guess I took a couple of hours of training, and I loved the people. And the couple of times I tried the exercises, I guess my problem was I have such a short attention span and maybe such a bad case of ADD that it felt like focusing to me, even though it's supposed to be the opposite of focusing. So I always had the feeling I just wasn't doing it right, if you know what I mean. And I guess I kind of turned away from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And look, there are different styles of meditation. So that is one style of meditation that a lot of people like. But what Jacalyn and I are doing right now is mindfulness. So maybe that would appeal to you more, or maybe an energizing meditation or a compassion meditation. But I would say if you have trouble focusing, that would be exactly the reason to start meditating. And look, you don't need to start by doing an hour a day. You could start by doing 5 minutes a day and then just assessing after a month or two if you feel like, my mind is able to focus more and I'm able to more live in my actual day, being present to what's happening to me throughout the day rather than living someplace in the clouds in my thoughts, and see if you feel happier and make that choice for yourself.
I definitely need it, and I'm really glad. I'm kind of happy to be a part of the conversation at this level, because I feel like I'm the poster child for meditation. I really do. I feel like it could help me tremendously. I guess my question is, how do I know when I'm doing it right? I mean, what do I feel or not feel?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's no doing it right or wrong. I mean, if you're able to walk with 2 legs, you don't think, oh, am I walking right? Am I not? It's just about doing it. And it just works just when you do it. And I would say that most of the scientific studies that have been done over the last few years will say that after just 2 months of meditating, if you're doing, say, mindfulness, even just 9 minutes a day, your brain will actually change. So, I mean, this thing works. Even we're just terrible at knowing whether it, quote unquote, worked in that session or felt great in that session or not. It just works by doing it. So it's just making that choice that, I do feel like my attention is a little all over the place and I'd rather be more focused, or I'd rather be more calm, or have more choice over my thoughts or my emotions. And so if you make that choice, I can teach you right now, Al.
Okay, that'd be great. I was going to ask too, for people like me, is there an entry point for the beginner at thepath.com?
Yeah, so we actually have a very short, very, very, very inexpensive intro course that I filmed that you could do. But I would say we could even just start right now. You know, you would just put your feet flat on the ground and have the top of your head just facing parallel up to the sky. So your head isn't too up or too down. And then just focus your mind on the sensation of the breath as the breath comes in and comes out of your nostrils. And just notice with a childlike smile, curiosity, and wonder what the sensations, all of those sensations feel like as the breath comes in and comes out of your nostrils. And if you can do that even for a few seconds, you're meditating and you're starting to train your mind.
Well, for people out there who might be like me, let me tell you how that feels to me, just doing it for 5 seconds. I mean, really, there's a machine that's running all the time in my head. It's kind of a cognitive machine, I guess. When I stop and I sit the way you suggested, and I become, let's say, more conscious of my breathing, and maybe slow my breathing down and become more aware of it, that machine shuts off.
That's
I felt that.
So you're a natural meditator. By the way, with this meditation, you're not slowing your breath at all. You're not changing the breath in any way. This is all about training our attention. So we talk about training the monkey mind, because your brain, even though you're very special, Al, and I know that we'll be great friends, everyone's brain is pretty similar as a human. And so we're all trained to have this monkey mind with our thoughts going all over the place. So that's beautiful what you just described. That's kind of the dream scenario, is that you stop the monkey mind even for a few seconds. And in doing that, by the way, you're living your life. You're noticing your breath. Maybe you can start feeling your body a bit and the sensations that are there. And this is how we can really enjoy our lives, is living in the present.
Well, yeah, it's definitely hard to worry about paying your bills and do that at the same time. I like it. Thank you. Thank you, Dina.
By the way, we have 3 people who have already posted comments. Great interview, Dina. And they're actually all on different social media pages. So that's YouTube, and we've got 2 different Facebook pages. So
great.
Outstanding. Dina, one thing, and by the way, thank you for doing that meditation with Al. I felt immediately my heart rate was going down. You know, like when I do this show, I have this giant light and I'm like sweating because it's so hot. And then you start thinking, I'm sweating. Can anyone see I'm sweating? And just when you're doing that, I was like, oh, take it down. But one thing I was hoping you would talk about is I was sharing with Al that I'm trying to subscribe to no lying, no stealing, no killing, and trying to do the right thing, right action, right thought. Can you talk a little bit more about the Buddhist philosophy and why that's so important?
Love you, Dr. Jacalyn. This is my favorite thing to talk about. Yeah, so one of the things that's really exciting about studying Buddhism right now, with everything going on in the world and in the United States, is that it's these very simple, very clear steps to teach us how to be happier. And so some of those are starting with having ethical vows. And you mentioned 3 of them. So it's no lying, no killing, no stealing. This is really these are the first 3 steps towards becoming happier. So, okay, let's do that, right? We all want to be happier. So one of them, the no lying, is a wonderful discipline. I actually wrote and published a whole article that I think I sent you guys about how it took me 2 years to figure out how to live in modern society, even with running a company, not lying. And I realized that I lied about really silly things. Someone might ask me, now that's the article, 2 years to no lies, literally 2 years, the first few months of which were just counting all the lies that I would say in each sentence, which if you start doing is horrifying. Someone might say, how many times have you been to London? And I might say, 40 times. So I've probably only been to London 25 times. But I mean, do they really care? Like, what a stupid thing to lie about. It was just a habit that I was in. So I started by counting lies. And over time, once I noticed a lie, I would say, oh, no, sorry. And I would correct it. And now I can actually live with no lying. The funny thing is it really purifies you. And the dangerous thing about it is that I now know when somebody's lying to me, for better or for worse. So I'm not a good girl to date for that reason. So that's the no lying. Another one is no killing. And yes, this includes bugs. So you'll find me in an apartment and I'm trying to catch a mosquito, or I have a glass on the ground trying to catch a spider so that I don't kill that and bring it outside. It's a really nice discipline to think about other creatures as having thoughts and a consciousness just like us, and trying to not kill them. That feels pretty relatively easy to do in modern society, but a nice step to take. And then the third one is no stealing. And I noticed very quickly once I adopted this that I kept getting undercharged for things at a restaurant. I would get 2 soda waters, they would only charge me for 1, or I'd stay at a hotel for 11 nights and they would only charge me for 10. And with this vow, I actually had to tell the hotel, look, you need to add those items onto my bill, horrifying whoever I was with, but it always came back to me. Buddhism also talks about karma and the cause and effect. And so whenever I did that, even if it cost me $100 or $200 more in that moment, it would always mean that something would happen so that I'd make, say, $500 the next day or the next week. So that it always came back to me. So that's the beginning with the ethics. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And it's really kind of an example of the practical application of faith. I mean, you really just have to believe that somehow this is going to work for you in some future case. When you miss the opportunity to screw somebody in the current case, it does come back to you in a positive way later on. And wow, that's giving up a free hotel night, though, that could be a tough one. But I have to give you a lot of credit for that.
I should get the credit, I think, right? It happens all the time to me. I'm constantly undercharged, and I always have to say it. It's like my Buddhist test almost on a daily basis. Yes, there's a wonderful book called The Diamond Cutter where they talk about planting seeds. And so these are planting very clear, good seeds that are, as you're saying, Al, are going to lead to great success or good fortune later on. And then, Jacalyn, you pointed out 2 other key aspects that I think about every day. So one of them is right speech, and no lying is part of that. But it also, okay, hold your breath, stop the presses. It also means no gossip. Very hard in modern society, but that's a choice. So no gossip, no harsh language, no divisive language. So for example, I've even applied this at my own company and within my team. You're never allowed to, I'm the boss and the founder and CEO, but no one's allowed to complain about anyone else in the company ever if they haven't addressed it first with that person. And so because of that, we have literally no gossip at all and no personnel issues at all in the company. And that's been a delight. And they know that I've taken a vow of no divisive speech. So I will never gossip about any of my team to someone else. And I'll also not use divisive language to anyone or about anyone. So yeah, it's kind of, Al, like what we're talking about with that good karma. I think that brings a good karma, and it's a wonderful way to live your life.
Unless you're a senator or a congressperson, I guess. I suppose that's true. I mean, we live in such a...
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just going to say we live in such a polarized world that it would be hard to not vibe along with that sometimes. But I think it's impressive that you try it and that you do it. I think that's great.
I think that the idea and the actual...
Yes, I mean, actually, you might have seen it too. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the fact that you said that you would write down every time you would lie, that's something that I'm going to do, because I think we're not really conscious of what we say and how much of it might not be true.
Yes, I didn't write it down for that one, but I made a note to myself. I would count the lies, and it's horrifying to do, because usually I think that the studies say that the average person will lie 3 times a minute. And that sounds about right. I was counting about 3 lies in every sentence, which is really scary. Not big things, but just little things. And why do that? Why not just live with honesty and clarity? Yeah, that's a huge one. But the other thing I want to bring up that you brought up, Dr. Jacalyn, that I want to address is the right action. So this is the one that I think about the most during the day. So to get there, Al, you have to first have a pretty clear mind, a pretty balanced mind. So I think meditation is essential to really get there. But once your mind is balanced and feeling even, or in Buddhism we would say equanimous, then you want to constantly think throughout your day, what's my right action? So you have to accept whatever the present is, accept everything, good and bad, that's in your world right now, and then think, what's my best action? Given everything that is that I can't change, what's the next action? And that I think is the biggest thing that we can do to improve our lives.
Definitely. That's great advice. Wow.
I also think the right thoughts is something that's really important too, because if we're using right speech and what we're saying, but we have negative, evil thoughts, that kind of negates whatever it is that our action isn't right because we're not thinking right. Am I on the right path?
Yeah, and in fact, I'll give you a tool right now that I'm hopeful that Jacalyn and Al you will love, and everyone who is tuning in right now live from around the world, which is if you have a thought that you don't like, that you think isn't serving you, you can just say cancel, cancel to yourself. I do this throughout the day. So cancel, cancel. It's very playful and kind of fun and silly. So for me, it makes me smile. And then you move on. So I actually got this from a wonderful online course called Finder's Course, and they got it from a great teacher named Chuladasa. But it is a great technique. So throughout your day, you can, if you're walking down the street, you're feeling angry or frustrated with something, you can just say, cancel, cancel, not out loud if you sound like a crazy person wherever you are, but just in your mind's eye. And then you can giggle to yourself and move on. And it's a wonderful technique.
I can picture myself on the 4 train heading uptown saying that about 300 times a minute. So,
so Dina, I have a question for you. So you had mentioned that you can tell when someone's lying, and there used to be a television show on, I can't remember the name of it, but it was basically how to tell if someone's lying. I think that it might even be called that, by facial expressions. Or so when you notice someone's lying to you, do you call them out on it, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, my friend Pamela Meyer gave a huge TED talk on this topic. And I know people that are looking at the eyebrow arch, and are they looking you in the eye? For me, for better or for worse, I can't help it. I just know it absolutely comes through me. I think because I'm so purified, having lived with this no lying vow for so long now, I'm about 7 years into it. So that's a great question. So no, often I can't, Dr. Jacalyn, because then that would be harsh language or abusive language or divisive language. All of that is banned with the no speech that we want to take on our Buddhist path. So, a lot in the end of this Buddhism thing and about hacking your happiness, which is how I think about this, is being smart. So you want to be compassionate, but you also want to live with wisdom. And so you're constantly playing between the compassion and the wisdom. And the wisdom side will tell me, as we know from Dale Carnegie, that it's better to be smart than right. So I might know someone's lying, but I don't gain anything by calling them on it. And they don't gain anything by being called on it. So I just note that to myself. And then I try to think, what's my right action from here? So if somebody invites me to do something or invites me into a business deal, and I think that they're lying about something, I just won't enter into that business deal. But I gain nothing by telling them that they're lying. And like I said, that's a violation of the right speech. So you just want to, you toggle between compassion and wisdom and try to constantly make that right action throughout the day.
Wow.
That was a lot. I'm still at the cancel. I love that. But so you've said it's 7 years, I believe you said, since you haven't told a lie. So I would think that you're much more evolved than most people. And when someone wants to emulate and be on the same path that you're on, is it something that you can do in a matter of months, or is it something that takes your whole life? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not 100% on it. I came in through customs, I think it was about a year ago, and I had an apple from Italy, and they ask you if you have any produce from another country, and I just could not handle being in customs, being asked questions about this for a few hours. So I did lie about that, but I still feel guilty about this 1 year later. So I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty good. So I think it depends on the person. For me, and I would have told you I was very honest before I took this lie, it took me 2 years to get there. So sorry. So maybe that's about the right amount of time to set for yourself, or maybe you'll be quicker at that than I was. I think the first step is just to count your lies. So count them, I think, with every sentence, or maybe with every conversation, and just note them to yourself. You don't need to tell the other person. And then once you're pretty accustomed to being mindful of what's coming out of your mouth, which is a great way to practice mindfulness. So Al, that could be another beginning towards
I'm writing that down. Writing that down.
Yeah, just to count your lives. So then what I did after about 3 months of that was I started not correcting myself in a very overly proper way, but when I noticed myself telling a lie, I would pause and I would say, oh no, wait, it was this. Let's say I told somebody that I ran a mile that morning when in fact it was half a mile. I would say, yeah, this morning I went running, how far? And so I might say, oh, I went for a mile. Then I would pause and say, no, you know what? It was probably less. It was probably half a mile. Not in a way that anyone else really would care or need to know or want to know, but it was just me self-correcting myself. And then after a few months of that, I would say about a year into it, I got a lot better. And then it was just about getting better and better and better. And then look, in business is the hardest thing. So I run a company. For example, we run this teacher training program, and it's great to be able to say we have 5 spots left, right? Because that'll move the people that are waiting for the last minute. But if I write out copy that's about to go out and I say we have 5 spots left, my whole team has taken no lying vows because they have to take that to work with us at the path. They might say, oh, Dina, no, that's not right. We actually have 6 spots left. So they call me on it. I'll call them on if they're ever lying about something. And in that way, we're in a culture and a team that really supports non-lying. But I'll tell you, it's very non-obvious. Whenever we work with consultants or people that are helping us with marketing, they want us to send out that 5 spots left email the day that we announce the program. So just have to keep everyone in check. And I have to constantly say, hey, I've committed to a Buddhist no lying vow. No one working with us in marketing can ever believe it, but we actually do hold to it.
That's impressive. That's very impressive. I have to apologize. I need to jump out because I've got another call, and I'm going to start counting lies as soon as I get on that call. But Dina, what a pleasure. What a great conversation. So great meeting you, and wishing you all the best. And I definitely want to recommend to everybody I know, thepath.com. That's the correct website, right? That's where we go?
Yeah. Yes, thank you,
love that
Al.
website. And you've got there's a 3-minute video there, I think, that I haven't had a chance to watch yet, but I'm planning to do that later today.
I haven't watched it yet myself either.
Well, it sounds interesting, and I definitely want to get to know it. And I got to go turn my monkey brain back on. Thank you, Dina.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later, Al.
Thank you.
So, Dina, I'm showing the information where people can contact you. I do have a couple of other questions if you have time.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So one thing I'm wondering is, since you've taken this vow and the people who work for you have also, how has that changed your circle of people that surround you, that you interface with?
Yeah, that's a really challenging question. And in fact, other people in our class that we're in right now are writing to me that that's been one of the hardest things, is that they're noticing that people around them are not living ethically in accordance with the path that they're on, and that they're having to move away from them. So that's been hard for people. I would say, for me, it's been very clear that the people that are right for me come in super close, and we're very blessed. And I'm very blessed because I run a beautiful high-end meditation retreat called Mela, and it really appeals to people who are doing incredible things regardless of what field it is, whether it's entertainment or education or politics or tech or business, but also people who are very kind and mindful. So the people in that Mela community, the people in the path community, and our teacher training, we get closer and closer to each other. We're all on the path together, and we're not perfect. I'm not perfect either, but we're trying to do our best. And then for the people that are heading more towards darkness, especially, look, I get it. I understand why people are drawn to substances that I'm choosing to stay away from. But if that starts to happen, or people are moving more towards darkness or negativity, they're not going to want to be around me as much, and vice versa. And that's okay. So as we study Jacalyn together, we want to keep a good Sangha around us. Sangha is very important in Buddhism, and that's the community of people that you're studying with and spending time with. They have a huge impact on you. You have a huge impact on them. And so I don't make these very conscious decisions, to be honest with you, about who I want to spend time with and who I don't, but all the right people seem to come in and the wrong people kind of fall away. And I let all that be.
I think that's so beautiful. And I think that when you are on the right path, you want to move in that direction and you don't want to have the negative influence. I know for me, and I just am honest about this, I've been drinking Chardonnay for 30 years. And the only time I would not have some is this is at night, right? Is if I was really sick. So I said to myself, why am I drinking Chardonnay? Like, it's just a habit. It's just, you're bored, you sit there. So I decided Monday nights when there's class, I'm not drinking. So the last 2 weeks I didn't drink, and I decided Thursday nights I'm not going to drink. And eventually I'm hoping that I'm just not going to drink because I don't need it. But I find that it's a result of this class. So it's how can you be mindful if you're drinking Chardonnay?
Yeah, thank you. That's a beautiful share. Very courageous and vulnerable. So thank you for that. Yes, it does tend to happen that, let's say if you're at a 2 on a scale of, let's say, 0 to 10 on happiness, and then if you're drinking or doing drugs or other things like that, maybe you go to a 7 or something like that. But then the next day you feel like a 1. So usually when people start going on their path and they start meditating and be studying spiritual texts, they start rising up a little higher, and their natural self might be at a 7. And so then you don't want to go and you drink, you're still at a 7, but then the next day you go down to a 1. So over time, it tends to happen that as people go on a spiritual path, they tend to be less delighted by the alcohol. But you can just also let that take its natural course and follow your intuition on that.
It's definitely what I'm doing. So thank you. You mentioned a retreat. Is there one planned for 2021?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had one planned. We had everything set up, but it was for June, and we had to put down a huge, huge, huge deposit on it. We basically would have been responsible for everything, including 90 people staying at an expensive hotel for 3 nights. So we just gave that up. So stay tuned. I would say if you can, we have an application page that's up at thepath.com/Mela apply. Or you can just email us at sit@thepath.com so that we invite you to the next one. But because of everything going on with COVID, we definitely don't want to be a super spreader event or anything connected to being a super spreader as the path. So we're going to wait and see what's going on in terms of the world and the vaccines before we book a set date. But we will start doing virtual retreats. We might even do something over New Year's. So please email us at sit@thepath.com if you might be interested. I think it feels like a really good time to convene. If we have to do it online, we'll do it online. If we can start doing smaller events in person, that would be really delightful.
Thank you for sharing that. And what about your next teacher training certification? Is that information available?
Well, it's not, but I can tell you that we've had an absolutely incredible time with this. We had always done them in person before, so we had no idea what it would feel like online, but it has been magical. And in many ways it's better because there's no commute, so it's easier. We have this really vibrant social network that you've been active on, that I've been active on, that I absolutely love. So I think there's so many advantages. So we're definitely going to do it again. And it's not announced yet, but for you and for your viewers, we will do another evening session on Monday night starting January 25th, and a daytime one for people that just have an easier time during the day, or for folks in Europe. And that will be on Wednesdays. So please do email us. We actually already have about 40 people that are interested, and the classes are only 25 people. So please email us if you're interested, and we would love to engage in a dialogue and see if the times work for you.
And I have to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed the class. I look forward to every week. And one of the things that our viewers may not know is that the class starts off with a meditation that's led by you or special guests that you might have. And then as students, we get the opportunity to sign up to lead a meditation, which is amazing. And then we also have a separate meeting outside of the class, a pod meeting with our pod members, where we also get to lead group meditation. So it's such a growing experience, at least for me. I know when I led mine, I was nervous, but at the same time, I felt so great. And now I'm incorporating in my yoga classes. So I think this class is extremely well designed, and it's a great experience. And you leave the class complete, at least for me, I feel so at peace that I can go to sleep at literally 8:30. I've been going to sleep after class. So
oh my God, I love that. I'm so wired from teaching it. I think I fall asleep at 2 a.m. every night, but just wired on this incredible good energy of everyone, right? And what a time to be surrounded by a sangha of people who are all just doing their best. We're all flawed. I'm flawed. The human brain is wired in a flawed way, but all of us are doing our best to try to, live our best life and be as happy as we can be and choose those right thoughts and right actions when we can. So it's so beautiful to do it together. So yes, please do email us, especially soon, because we're going to launch these new classes soon. And I think they'll sell out quite quickly. So it's sit is another word for meditation. So just SIT at thepath.com or thepath.com/teacher. You can just give us your email and we'll send you a note when you can inquire for more information or sign up. And we would love to bring in friends of yours, Dr. Jacalyn, and people that are in your listening community, because you're such a beautiful person, so open and vulnerable and doing so many positive things in the world that we would be thrilled to have anyone in your orbit join us.
Well, thank you, Dina. I appreciate that. And we are running your contact information, Dina Kaplan, The Path, sit at thepath.com. Come sit with us, and http://thepath.com. So I have to say that I found you and The Path at an incredible time. My life was completely shifting around. I never gave meditation teacher training certification a thought ever, never even popped into my head. And all of a sudden I'm sitting at my computer. I'm like, I think I should look more into meditation. And then your company was, listed as the best. And so I thought this is an amazing experience. So from there, full circle to being able to interview you is just such a wonderful blessing. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And, it's not necessarily for people that need to teach. You might incorporate it into what you're doing. Like we have yoga teachers, as Dr. Jacalyn was saying, that can guide meditations now at the beginning or end of a yoga class. Or if you're a therapist or you're a coach, you can incorporate it into your work. But even if you just want to be in a happy community of people learning Buddhism and learning how we can gain our happiness from within, what valuable, important lessons for us right now, especially as we head into winter. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID and the election, at least in the United States. So how beautiful to just put a mark in the ground that says, I'm going to do the best that I can to live a happier life and be a happy presence for the people who are in my life. I think that's an incredibly positive step and a great example of taking some freedom in your mind and in your life.
I agree with you. And two other thoughts have come to mind. One is, as a life and career coach, I'm going to start my coaching sessions asking the client if they would be open to a brief meditation. And then the other thing I'm thinking is, in corporate America, I worked for this company for, I was going to say 13 years, but it's actually 12 years and 7 months, I believe. Then I retired in February. But our national sales meeting was this week. And so I was thinking, wow, wouldn't it have been amazing if they started off the session with all 650 employee owners with meditation? And what if every day they started this session with meditation? And I'm wondering, is that the message that you're able to spread to organizations, that this is such an incredible gift that they could give to their people?
Oh, yes. We have in our class, we have one of the co-founders of Casper. It's a pretty big company you probably know of in the mattress category. And he's taking the class because he's going to lead meditations for people at the company. And we have other entrepreneurs who are going to lead meditations for their teams. And exactly as you're saying, as a therapist or a coach, it's a wonderful thing to do. I think any conversation that you have, any meeting, if you can begin it even with literally 60 seconds of meditation, it's going to be a lighter and a more positive meeting. And look, if this is the part that we can play in making the world better in 2020 and beyond, let's take that, let's take that role and run with it.
Yes, it's all for the positive. It's all about lifting up each other, providing hope and inspiration. And you have given me so much to think about. And I just love that, counting the lies. I'm going to start doing that today. So that's another commitment that I'm making, that I'm going to be doing for becoming a better person. So thank you for sharing that. Dina, our time is over for now. I'd love to have you back on. What message would you like to leave our viewers with?
I would just say to be easy on yourself. We all have negative thoughts. We all have good days. We all have bad days. Really, at this time, the best thing we can do is just accept what is. We have a lot of things that are out of our control right now, and just focus on what you can do. So do the best actions that you can. And maybe a very simple step is to take some steps towards that right speech. And so maybe it's no lying, as Jacalyn is taking on. That's a wonderful one. Or maybe just try living a week with no gossip, or having nothing that comes out of your mouth feel abusive or divisive, or any language that would make somebody else feel badly. So you want to start to become aware not just of your own words, but of the impact that they have on other people. And so the more we can do that, we're planting those positive seeds, and you will be met, because I am a big believer in karma, you will be met with good things. So enjoy all of the good things that will come your way when you do this. And thank you for listening. And also, Dr. Jacalyn, it's been an absolute delight. I love you as a host, but also a meditator, and most of all, a human. So thank you for all the good you do and bring to the world.
Well, thank you for being a bright light in my life and for everyone else's life all around the world, all the people whose hearts you've touched, whose minds you've touched, and whose spirits you have touched. So I am grateful, and I love you as a person, and thank you so much for being here today. If you'll wait around backstage for me, I'd love to chat with you briefly.
Thank you, for sure. Love you too. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you to everyone who's been watching us today, and also again to Business Talk Radio and Chris, who is our producer there in New York. We're going to close the show out with the next chapter, which is something that I put together for Cini and I, just as my next step in making commercials. So I'll leave you with that, and we will see you next week live on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn.